Why exactly do the rarest minds peak after age 50? You know, for a really long time, you might have wondered if your lifelong feeling of being different was some sort of inherent flaw. I mean, processing absolutely everything so intensely, feeling totally overwhelmed by environments that other people seem to navigate with zero effort, it can feel isolating. Society often tells us that if we don't fit perfectly into this extroverted, fast-paced mold, well, something needs to be fixed. But what if it's not a malfunction at all? What if, instead, it's a specific, highly intricate mental architecture built for incredible depth? It turns out that kind of depth just takes decades to properly bake.
Section 1. The exhaustion of intellectual camouflage. If you're a highly perceptive person, the first half of your life is probably characterized by this constant low-grade exhaustion. And it comes from a daily reliance on something called intellectual camouflage. Basically, it's the act of deliberately hiding your true cognitive intensity. Think about what that actually entails for a second. You're constantly slowing down your rapid thinking, you're biting your tongue, and you're meticulously mimicking everyday social norms simply to avoid making other people uncomfortable. For decades, you've likely done the exhausting heavy lifting of mirroring the world around you. You've dampened your own brilliance and curiosity just to blend in, avoid standing out, and keep the social peace. And honestly, doing that every single day takes an enormous physical and mental toll.
And all of this masking, it comes with some massive hidden costs. You spend literally years suppressing your deep inherent intensity and relying almost entirely on a survival-based awareness. Biologically speaking, you're often stuck in what's known as a dorsal vagal state. Simply put, this is your nervous system's ultimate defense mechanism. It shuts you down, makes you quiet, and forces you to play small just to keep you safe from perceived social threats. This chronic state of nervous system lockdown leaves you feeling persistently out of sync with everyone else. This isn't just some quirky social habit, right? This is heavy survival armor. And wearing that armor every waking minute creates this immense, unseen energy drain that can fuel a lifetime of quiet anxiety.
Section 2. The age 50 permission slip.
Eventually, the endless noise of that social performance just becomes completely unsustainable. The sheer energy it takes to maintain the facade simply runs out. And that brings us to a really profound sovereign shift. Age 50. Now, this isn't just an arbitrary number. It's a psychological threshold where the utter exhaustion of masking finally outweighs the fear of standing out. It's the era where that incredibly heavy survival armor is finally put down. The camouflage is officially retired. You reach a point where you realize that shrinking yourself to fit into rooms you don't even like being in, well, it's just no longer worth the biological cost.
It essentially becomes a permission slip to finally stop apologizing for your mental depth. After a lifetime of deep processing, absorbing everyone else's emotions, and constantly apologizing for seeing things that others miss, you grant this exact permission to yourself, and this marks the beautiful beginning of true post-traumatic growth. It is the exact moment you decide to step out of the shadows and inhabit the sanctuary of being truly seen.
Section 3. The evolution of traumatic intelligence.
Over time, high metacognitive ability, which is just a fancy way of saying the ability to think deeply about your own thinking, along with past traumas, actually evolve into your greatest asset. In childhood, this cognitive design often starts out purely as hypervigilance. It's this anxious need to constantly scan rooms, read microexpressions, and predict moods just to stay safe in unpredictable environments. Then, over the next few decades, that fearful scanning transitions into relentless social data collection. You basically become an expert at pattern recognition. But as you cross that 50-plus threshold, true post-traumatic growth kicks in. You achieve a highly refined philosophical clarity. What began as a fearful reactive radar system transforms, through the sheer alchemy of time and experience, into an unshakable internal strength.
That old, exhausting radar system? It becomes a calm, incredibly strategic tool. The hypervigilance is completely replaced with mastery. The sensory processing that once caused you so much anxiety and overwhelmed you in crowded rooms is now functioning peacefully. It gives you an unparalleled ability to read beneath the surface of any situation, allowing you to see the hidden layers of human behavior, sense unspoken dynamics, and navigate complex interpersonal situations entirely without losing your own center. You still see everything, for sure, but it no longer controls you.
Section 4. The shift to internal authority. In the first half of life, it's super easy to get caught up seeking external hits of happiness. You're running endlessly on that hedonic treadmill, meaning you're constantly chasing the next brief high of social approval, participating in draining social rituals, and using others as a mirror for your own worth, only to immediately return to feeling unfulfilled. But the second half of life completely rewires how you measure your value. You step entirely off that exhausting treadmill. You develop a secure internal locus of evaluation, which means your self-worth is determined solely by you.
You find deep grounding in silence, in the absolute peace of solitude, and in a stable, unshakable internal authority that no longer needs a crowd to feel validated.
Section 5. Mastering Strategic Ignorance. This final phase is all about the refined art of knowing exactly when to engage and when to simply sit back and observe. It starts with clearly recognizing the social masks and logical inconsistencies around you. Because again, your highly perceptive mind still catches absolutely everything. You clearly see the contradictions, but here is the real magic. The second step is that you release the responsibility to fix or expose them. You no longer feel that burning need to correct every wrong or point out every flaw. This is strategic ignorance. It's what allows you to utilize your high intelligence without taking on the utterly exhausting burden of constantly trying to repair a world that frankly isn't asking to be repaired.
Your mind is not a malfunction to be repaired. It's a specific design built for a depth that only time can reveal. For anyone who has ever felt broken because they processed the world just a bit too deeply, let this sink in. All that time spent feeling completely out of sync, that wasn't a glitch in your programming. It was preparation. It was the necessary decades-long maturation process required for a rare, sovereign shift into who you were actually meant to be. The intensity you spent years hiding is the exact fuel for the clarity you experience now.
Which leaves us with one really vital, profound question to think about. How will you build and protect your mental sanctuary? Now that you understand the true architecture of your mind, and you've finally accessed that hard-earned internal authority, I challenge you to fully embrace your unshakable internal peace. Put down the camouflage, stop apologizing for your depth, and aggressively protect the peace you've spent half a lifetime earning. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it brought you some profound clarity, and I will see you next time.